Should you drink Starbucks? That's the question we want to answer today. Short answer is it really depends what you're doing there. It really depends what you're getting from Starbucks as well. But first and foremost, I want to apologize for being away from making video content. That's because three main reasons. Number one, if you might have noticed, I moved into a new place. Secondly, I've got a newborn baby. So combining these two, there's a lot of settling down to do. Not only that, being a newborn father, being a new father, obviously it takes a lot of getting used to. And third reason, it's because I just haven't been able to find really compelling topics to talk about. So, but if you guys have any interesting topics that you want me to talk about, please put it in the comment section below. So back to our question of the day, should you drink at Starbucks? We'll be looking at this answer not from a conspiracy theory standpoint, like, are they evil capitalists? Do they have evil agendas behind them? But we'll be looking at it more from an economics of health standpoint. Now, bear in mind that the answer to this involves a lot of personal observation, personal hypothesis, and there'll be even a few stereotypes of people. So you might agree or you might not agree, but listen on and you'll find out. I want to give a quick shout out to Adam Lobo because he's been the one that's been giving me tips on how to make better videos, make the sound quality better. So if you're enjoying this, it's really thanks to Adam Lobo. If you want to check out what he does a lot of great gadget reviews. Check him out in the link in the description below. To understand the answer to this question, we need to understand a few types of people. Stereotype number one is people who go to Starbucks for meetings or to get work done. To get work done, usually alone, you want to be away from home, you want to be away from office, whatever your reason is. You don't really care what you're drinking, you're just there for work and treating Starbucks kind of like a co-working space. Stereotype number two, and this is where it gets interesting. Follow me. Chances are, if you like a traditional cup of coffee, like for example, latte, cappuccino, flat white, long black, or even an espresso shot, even if you're just kind of fussy, chances are you will not like how Starbucks tastes. I was quite skeptical. I wasn't that fussy with coffee, so I went to find out. And true enough, when you really start to compare, you'll notice the difference. Compare as in Starbucks to an independent cafe, or they call it a third wave cafe, or you could even call it a hipster cafe, whatever you call it. Then I was curious and I went to find out why. Of course, in discovering the answer to this, no one would go on record because someone who works in Starbucks might get their ass fired. Someone outside of Starbucks, might get their ass sued. I might even get sued. I might even get a lawsuit from making this video. I don't know. So I found out that by design, coffee from Starbucks are kind of made to suck. So here's why. Starbucks use this type of coffee beans called your dark roast. In a more hipster cafe, more independent cafe, you would discover that they normally use medium to dark roast. I'll just call it medium roast from now on. So if Starbucks knows that dark roasts kind of suck in terms of taste, why do they still use it? The reason is very simple. It's because it's way easier to handle and maintain dark roast coffee beans. You don't need to adjust your machines every day or more than once a day. Whereas people in independent coffee places that make great coffee, they have to do it because they have to and they want to. They have the skills to. Whereas you would find that normally in a Starbucks place, baristas are not exactly trained to do that, even though they are called baristas. Usually, if you order a latte with just a few push of buttons and mixing milk together, you will have a latte. Unlike if you go to an independent coffee place, there's a lot more involved into making a good cup of latte. So the reason why I brought up this stereotype is because you have to understand, if you like a decent cup of traditional coffee like latte, flat white, cappuccino, chances are you probably would not get it from Starbucks unless you really don't have a choice. You don't have a third wave or independent coffee place nearby and you don't have an alternative, which brings us to stereotype number 3. Before we talk about stereotype number 3, we need to talk about Starbucks business. I think early on in the business, they wanted to expand, but they had a problem. The problem was in most places, say outside of Europe, outside of US, there are actually not that many coffee drinkers, at least earlier in the days. Then they realized why don't we introduce drinks that are not really coffee but kind of like coffee or maybe derived from coffee? For example, a butterscotch latte, a Java chip. Then they realize, whoa, this guys, they really sell well. They bring in people who are otherwise non-coffee drinkers, and on top of that, they earn a pretty good healthy margin. Stereotype number 3 are people who go in not for a traditional cup of coffee but for all these beverages that remotely resemble a good cup of coffee. So what goes into these drinks? That's where we have a real problem. These drinks are usually super rich, super flavorful. Where do you think all this richness and flavors come from? It comes from syrup, it comes from heavy creams and heavy whipped creams. If you combine these two, you have a very potent recipe for all kinds of metabolism disasters, like potentially diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, which eventually will lead to heart disease, the number one killer in most countries. Whipped cream, for example, if you go to the supermarket and you actually read labels, whipped cream is one of very few things left in a supermarket that is pretty high in trans fat. Even if you see trans fat is written as 0, sometimes it appears as other things that might not be labeled as trans fat. Trans fat, by the way, is the worst kind of fat that you can take. Let's take, for example, remember margarine? Remember how people claim science was so advanced that they could turn vegetable oil into this magical form of butter that you can actually spread so easily on bread and stuff. And if you also recall, recently you don't see much margarine in the shelves anymore because people have found out that it's actually bad shit. So before the most important part of the video, i.e. the recap, I want to do a quick shout out about Focus Foods Daily Greens right here. If you do not know what it is, it's a blend of many super greens. You could treat it like a cold pressed veggie juice in the morning. I have it because I just don't eat enough vegetables. It's good for detox, it's good for your general health, for your immunity, and many people consume it for the skin. So most importantly, let's recap. Stereotype number 1, you're just there kind of to use Starbucks as a co-working space. You're just there to do work. It's fine, but be careful what you're ordering to drink. Type number 2, you are either there because you don't have a choice, or it's a matter of personal preference, of course, but maybe you do not know better. You know, if there are independent coffee places out there and you want a good cup of coffee like latte, cappuccino, iced long black even, please go to them and you will notice the difference. And type number 3 is a problematic type. I think you should really question your choices, especially if you're walking there after lunch thinking you just want to have a nice beverage, but little do you know that you are consuming so much more bad calories into your system. That's when you should really reconsider. Personally, do I go to Starbucks? I only go there if I do not have a choice. What do I order from Starbucks? Iced long black that actually tastes like, I don't know, sewage. Really, I think for lack of better description, really, I'm just there if I really don't have a choice. And if you are into iced long black from Starbucks, you could just as well go to Maru. I'm not associated to them, but if we're talking like the Kedai root shit kind of coffee, your dark roast where they have super stable shelf life, a cup from Starbucks iced long black is just as good as a cup from Maru, for example. So there you have it. Think about it, guys.